All right, people, it's Friday. You know what time it is. It's time for the MMA Mainstream Podcast. I'm James, of course, as always, joined by my co-host, Kaelyn. And we have a guest today, Jeremy Escolta, who will be competing at 559 Fights, fighting for the bantamweight title. And that's on the 11th, if I'm correct. Yes, that's on the bottom of our ticker. So we're not too far out from the fight, man. How's training been going for it?
Training has been great, feeling good, feeling ready, getting down on weight. Always the hardest part of the process, but very close on weight, so feeling good.
Nice, very nice. Now, did you have a full fight camp for this? Was it a partial fight camp? Because it's always a different situation for amateurs, so just curious.
I'd say it was about a full fight camp, probably 6 to 8 weeks. So, yeah, normal fight camp out.
All right. Now, do you know anything about the guy you're going up against? Like, I know some guys will look into their opponent. Do you do the same, or do you just say F it and you'll learn in the cage?
A little bit of both. I do review a little bit of tapes here and there, just to see what I'm working with. So I did watch, some of his fights. I think the main ones that I watched were actually against the 125 champ. Yeah, I know he beat him his first fight, and then his last fight he actually lost to him. So get insight into what to work on with this guy.
Now, has there been anything that you've been focused on more than anything else? Have you been working more on your wrestling or your jiu-jitsu, or has it been your striking?
Working on everything. Always try to stay well-rounded. Be ready for wherever the fight takes it, or wherever we go and fight. Ground game, stand up, wherever it is. I'm always prepared.
What's your background? Because a lot of people will come from striking, jiu-jitsu, wrestling. What's your background?
Actually, all three that you mentioned. So I'm a Taekwondo black belt, second degree.
There you go.
I've been competing in Taekwondo since like 5 years old. Yeah.
Oh.
Nationally, internationally, been in the Taekwondo game for a long time, and then wrestled in high school as well. Purple belt in jiu-jitsu now. Recently got my purple belt, so pretty well rounded.
And then you said that weight cut might be the hardest part, maybe a bit stressful. Do you have to cut a lot of weight? Do you have trouble with it, or is it something you really have to prioritize and worry about?
Because I've been competing for so long, like in Taekwondo and wrestling in high school and everything. The weight cut is not much problem, but I probably for this one 150 have to cut about 15 pounds. So about normal, nothing too crazy, nothing more than 20 pounds or anything like that. So
that's perfect.
I usually try to stay within a decent weight. Yeah.
Yeah, that's smart. So what's your schedule like? Do you have to manage your training aside from like a job, or what's your schedule like?
So, fortunately, I kind of run my own business. I do personal training, I do basically private lessons for people and create my own schedule. So when I get closer to the fights, especially like this past week and next week, I really try to, take out as many clients as possible and just, really focus and hunker down on what I got to do for the fight, make sure my weight's on point, and just make sure I'm doing everything right to prepare for what's ahead.
Great. And what is your goals? Like, what's the end game for you? Are you trying to go pro with this, make it a lifelong career, or where are you at with that?
Definitely trying to make a career out of this thing. Would love to go pro, sooner than later. I don't want to stick around in the amateurs for too much longer. Hopefully after winning this belt and then maybe defending my other belt that I have, I think I'll be ready to make that transition. And I'm looking to go pro hopefully by the end of this year.
Oh, wow, that's great. That was actually
everything goes according to plan.
Good. Yeah, no, my next question was going to be like, have you ever fought for a title before? But apparently you already have one. But so you're pretty familiar
two.
with those main events and title fights. So you have one other title right now, right?
Actually, two other titles. I have the West Coast Elite Bantamweight belt, and then also Zong Lo Cage Fighting Series Bantamweight belt. Bantamweight belt next weekend.
There we go.
That mantle's looking pretty full of titles. That's kind of nice. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good resume there.
Exactly. Trying to build up the resume as much as possible before making that pro transition. Whichever to bring you on.
So I was going to ask, a lot of people aspire to, of course, there's the UFC, there's Bellator, there's all these other organizations to go to when you're pro. What are you looking at? What organization are you eyeballing to hopefully get into eventually?
Ultimately, the Ultimate Fighter.
Of course.
UFC, that's the most after belt for sure. So definitely aiming for the high that I can. I think UFC is the top organization. So that's my goal. But if other organizations bring me on and I have to work my way up the ladder to get to that point, I'm more than willing to do that as well.
Now, you talk about being involved in Taekwondo. What really got you into doing MMA? Because, you started off with one martial art. What progressed you to get into MMA?
Great question. Growing up, I've watched every UFC, basically never missed, you know what I mean? Just have been a huge fan, since I was a little kid. And just growing up, I kind of always envisioned myself making the transition to mixed martial arts. And then, once I got into high school and started getting into the grappling games, doing wrestling and stuff. And then, once I graduated, got into jiu-jitsu and stuff. And that kind of just, step by step led me into making my way into martial arts. Had my debut in 2018 and, hopefully soon making that pro debut.
Nice.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like you're on your way. That's, I think you might be one of the more experienced fighters we've talked to so far. I think, because you have a couple titles already. Where are you from exactly?
Yeah, the peninsula. I'm in Redwood City, and then I also train in the East Bay as well. So bouncing around throughout the Bay Area. And
what brought you to 559?
My coach and my dad, basically my manager, they've been in talks with Jeremy for a long time. I tried to get on a card a while back, but unfortunately, things didn't pan out. And now that, the offer's there for the title, I was more than willing to, make my way down there, start spreading my fan base a little bit. I've had some fights in San Francisco, some fights in San Jose area. So just trying to, like I said, spread the fan base, get some eyes on, fighter, and just hopefully gain a bigger following, gain some more attention, and
making your way through California. That's good.
Exactly.
And I feel like the Bay Area has a lot. First of all, there's a lot of gyms out there. Also,
100%.
a lot of organizations, a lot of fights are usually happening, a lot of events. I feel like that might be the tougher area to fight in because you're going to come across fighters from everywhere. Even the Bay Area itself has a lot of great fighters. It's a lot of good experience, and to manage to get a couple titles and just pick your fights that way, it takes a lot, and that sounds really tough, and that's really, really respectable, because I always found watching fighters from down south or up north in the Bay Area, the competition is crazy.
Yes,
very
a lot different.
Yeah, it is. And because I know a lot of our guys from this area will go fight in the Bay Area and stuff, and those are like the toughest fights and the most entertaining, in my opinion, that I've seen for MMA. Even Muay Thai, kickboxing, it's always interesting, and there's a lot of inspiration up there as far as credibility goes. You know, you got UFC fighters that are from there that train there a lot too. They have their own gyms. Right. So that's pretty cool that you've gained all that experience and had the career that you've had so far. That's pretty cool. Thank you. I hope you excel in that. I will be watching for sure. Definitely let us know, you know, how all this goes. We'd like to bring you on again and see what's next either way, no matter what happens. Of
course.
I don't know how much more time you have. I think probably a few more minutes.
We got a few minutes left, and then we got to let them go.
Yeah. Do you want to shout outs or anything before you go?
You know, definitely shout out Bay Area Fight Academy in Hayward, California. Also shout out Charles Gracie, Redwood City, Escolta Martial Arts, Powerhouse Gym in Redwood City, Elite King Sports, Coach Gerbs. Who else we got? You know, I got a long list. I got a ton of coaches that I work with, a ton of people, you know, all my friends, family, everyone who supports, you know, got to shout them out. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Now, all right, you talk about, you know, you're up in the Bay, you're coming south to compete in 559. What about, would you go even further south to compete in Southern California?
Yeah, you know, I definitely want to, like I said, spread my fan base and just, you know, get as much experience everywhere as possible. You know, I don't always want to have the home game. You know, the away games are also good experience to have. You never know, you know, UFC wise, if, you know, I have an international fight or something, just getting used to being in enemy territory, you could say, you know. Yeah, I would definitely consider going down to Southern California area as well. Sure.
Now, are there any fighters that from the Bay Area that inspire you?
You know, I definitely take inspiration from Kung Lee. OG.
Wow, that's a name I haven't heard in a minute. I like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I like his style a lot, and just I would say, you know, that's one guy that comes to mind.
That's cool you said that, because when I was thinking, I'm like, man, there's a lot of fighters up there in that area, and I definitely seen him at a couple Muay Thai events, amateur Muay Thai. And it was in that area too, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and actually, you know, the Diaz brothers, of course. Huge inspiration. I love those guys. You know, there's, like you said, there's so many big gyms out here. So many great fighters. The AKA squad, you know, they have tons of champs. Just I take inspiration from, you know, everyone. If I see a good fight, if I see techniques that I like, you know, definitely try to train those, add those to the arsenal. And, you know, I pick up, you know, inspiration, motivation from every fight that I watch, whether it's at the amateur level. Even watching, like, because I help train, you know, the kids and stuff for the sparring classes for Taekwondo and everything like that at my dad's gym. So even just watching them, you know, I take inspiration from seeing them, you know. Just, it doesn't matter what level, what age, just martial arts in general, you know.
Yeah, I feel like there's always something you could take away from, you know, even as a, you know, say you are a pro fighter, you are always going to learn something from working with someone that knows nothing. Even just by teaching, you always learn something maybe about yourself that will help you just, you know, maybe just for clarity and how to fit things together. I've kind of helped out with training a bit, and I realized by doing that, I'm like, oh, hold on. Like, I do know what I'm talking about, because it goes this way. I'm like, oh, it makes sense. And I figured a lot of stuff out that way too. So that's pretty cool. And you're always, it sounds like you're constantly surrounded by that. So that's really great that you have all that inspiration around you, like 24/7. That's really cool.
Yes. You know, I try to immerse myself in it every day, like you said, 24/7. It's pretty much the only thing that's on my mind is martial arts all the time.
That's what's up. All right.
Yeah.
My last question before we let you go. It's not an MMA related question. You're in the Bay Area. Who do you root for? Giants or A's?
Oh man, I hope I don't upset too many people, but I am a Giants fan. Actually,
I'm disappointed. I'm an A's fan, so I'm disappointed.
Hey, all right. Hey, you didn't need to start that drama, James. Come on.
Hey, I love the A's too. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Bay Area fan. I root for all the Bay Area teams. But if it's Giants versus the A's, I'm going Giants all day.
I understand you're a Giants fan.
Actually,
it's cool. We're good.
Funny story. My first ever Giants game was actually when I was 2 weeks old.
Dang.
2 weeks old. My mom brought me to the Giants stadium at AT&T Park, and
she baptized you.
Ever since, been a Giants fan. Baptized a Giants fan, exactly.
All right, man. Well, we know you got to get going, and we've taken all your time. So thanks for joining us. Good luck on your fight, and we look forward to talking to you afterwards, man.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Cool. See you guys.
All right. That was cool. A little
Yeah.
bummed out.
I'm
an A's
excited.
fan. I was hoping to find another A's fan, but no, wrong.
I would have appreciated if you said A's, but it's all right. Whatever. I like the Dodgers, so I'm really not.
Yeah, man.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in LA, and I was like, oh, that's
Of course.
But I'm like, what about no love for Anaheim? No, or I'm sorry, the LA Anaheim, whatever they're called.
Oh yeah, no. Well, I have family members that live close to Anaheim, and they are Angels fans, but
we don't talk to them. No, just kidding.
No, we don't talk.
All right, let's go ahead and get into some MMA news that's been going on. We do have fights this weekend for the UFC. It's a fight night, but I'll be honest, after scrolling through the card, there are some interesting fighters that are going to be competing, but I don't care who they're fighting against. Like Dan Ige, I don't care about who he's fighting against.
Give me 1 second, okay?
Okay.
Right back.
Before, folks, we don't just randomly take breaks during the show, but we are now. This is where I wish we had a commercial sponsor, because then we could toss to a commercial sponsorship. That'd be great. We do have fights coming up locally. If you're in the Central Valley, we have 559 Fights, who we just interviewed, Jeremy Escolta. He'll be competing for the bantamweight belt for 559 Fights on June 11th. And then we have MMA Fight Pass presents Cage Fighting, Volume 4, June 25th in Farmersville. And that's a fight. I plan on attending both. I will for sure plan on being at the MMA Fight Pass. Welcome back.
Sorry.
I just did a quick plug for some local MMA. I was also mentioning that I wish we had a sponsorship deal, because that's where I would have put in a commercial break. Or, like,
that's okay.
We're sponsored by Raycon earbuds or fuck anybody. Blue Chew.
We'll take all of them. Let's go.
Blue Chew, it's great. Yeah,
MeUndies, anything. Come on. No.
Manscaped. Yeah, awesome.
That's funny. Manscaped. Those are like, there's like 10, like maybe 5 major sponsors that all you hear on anyone's podcast.
Yeah.
Always.
That's it. And because if you listen to a podcast consistently, you expect to hear that commercial for said sponsor.
God, and it is like, it's like nails on a chalkboard hearing these dudes have to get it out.
We have how much time to talk about this? All right.
And then they're like, they're reading it as they go, so they're not real smooth with it. And it's like, oh, hurry up, man. I'll listen to a podcast later so I can skip through those. But
I do that all the time. Like if you listen to a podcast enough, okay,
yeah,
it's time to skip this.
It's like, come on, man.
Yeah. So we were talking about the UFC fight night going on this weekend. I'm excited for the main event. That's
a good one.
Number 8 Rosenstruck versus number 7 Volkov in a heavyweight bout.
That will be a good one.
Yeah, I mean they're both coming off losses. They're both heavy-handed.
So I take Jairzinho for this one.
Yeah, that's who you're picking. That's who I was gonna. That's who I've been leaning towards. So I'll go with Rosenstruck.
Volkov is great. It's just, I feel like in recent fights that I've seen him fight, I don't know if it's just like, I don't know. You see the motivation in some of these guys, and sometimes you don't see it anymore.
It's almost like, what performance are we going to get from him?
Yeah, is he on or is he off? Because I feel like at some point it is like that, and I feel like Jairzinho is still in that stage where he is still trying to climb the ladder, and that he will go all out. You know that when you watch him, I know he's going to go all out because that's all he's ever done.
He's just gonna go lay
Volkov
hands.
had seemed kind of held back in recent fights, I feel like. So I just feel like Jairzinho, and it could go either way with heavyweights. You never know. But I feel like Jairzinho would get this one.
Yeah, I have to agree. If Volkov takes him to the ground, I think Volkov has a tremendous chance of winning.
He does.
But overall, I'm taking Rosenstruck as the winner.
Yeah. And for the co-main, Dan Ige has been around for a while, and I do like watching him. I don't know his opponent.
I don't either. Yeah, he's ranked 13th.
Right. No, and I've actually seen him fight before. Just not familiar with, and 15-0. It should be an interesting fight because Dan Ige is right up there too. So we'll see. Both guys are good. There was another fight I'm very interested in.
What fight would that be?
Caught a little bit of the weigh-ins. It's a female fight, not that one.
Not that one, so it'd probably be on the prelims.
On the prelims.
Oh.
Felice Herrig and Carolina. Sorry, I can't even say that last name.
Welcome to the party.
Can't either.
Sucks, doesn't it?
Kovacevic. I think that's how they say it. Whatever. I like her. One of my favorite female fights, and I don't know if anyone else agrees or remembers, but she fought Joanna, and I thought it was a pretty good fight. And the way I remember that is because they're both Polish, and it was kind of like the battle between the two Polish. And
it was a civil war.
It was. That is kind of how they advertise it. Is funny. I thought it was she put up a good fight against Joanna. I mean, ever since then, her performances have been kind of off and on, but that was a good fight, and it surprised me that it was so competitive. But anyway, another weird thing is I was thinking the other day, I'm like, whatever happened to Felice Herrig? Where did she go?
There
right?
You go.
And all of a sudden, I happened to catch a glimpse of the weigh-ins. I'm like, okay, that was weird. I must have manifested that or something because I was wondering about her and had no idea. I thought she quit.
Be there.
I'm like, where did she go? Was she not have a contract or what? Because I think it's been a while since she's fought last.
I think it has been quite some time. But let's be honest, if she wasn't fighting in UFC still, she'd already signed a bare knuckle contract.
I don't know. I think she's better than that. She's great, and she always looks better and better in her fights. She looks more in shape every single time she comes out. So I think this is going to be a good matchup. I think Felice will take it just based off past fights that Carolina has shown. Like I said, like when I was talking about the main event, about that hunger that fighters have when they first come in and are really trying to make a run for the title, you can tell. But with Carolina, I feel like she's more reserved and is not giving it her all, or just something was up. I don't know, but I think Felice would take it. She's an animal normally all the time. So yeah, I think Felice will take this one. And I'm happy she's fighting because I was just wondering about her. I'm like, where did she go? Like she kind of fell off the face of the earth. I got a chance to meet her actually at in Anaheim. It was a UFC event that I went to, and she, they do their little they set up like booths and stuff. Well, they'll have some fighters sign autographs, take a picture, whatever. So she was there. So I saw her in person. Kind of cool. But,
I will say this is where my old knowledge of UFC comes into play. I went to UFC 54.
Okay.
This is before UFC was what we know it now as UFC.
It was getting there, yeah.
And Chuck Liddell was the man at the time because he fought Jeremy Horn in that card.
Okay.
And the access to fighters was amazing.
Oh, really?
I have a program that is signed by a ton of fighters. Like Dan Henderson, who I knew.
You better frame that.
Oh yeah, it's framed. It's framed. It's beautiful. I look at it and I'm like, signed by Matt Hughes, awesome. Dan Henderson, Evan Tanner. Before, of course, he passed because couldn't sign it afterwards. but just a ton of fighters, and they were just all roaming around. You don't get that now.
No,
it's hard as hell to get.
There's lots of security nowadays.
Yep. So
and this was like a special like before fight event that they had outside the Honda Center in Anaheim. So they had Felice Herrig, and I forgot who else was out there, but I wasn't there for that. I was there for the John Jones Daniel Cormier 2, which is the fight card was amazing. Like I still think it may have been one of the best fight cards the UFC has put together. Had Donald Cerrone fighting just blanking on his name. God, Robbie Lawler. They fought. That's a war. It was a very good fight. And Damian Maia fought Tyron Woodley, which was a bad fight because the crowd just got kind of crazy when nothing was happening, of course, because Damian Maia was just going for the takedown. He was going for the takedown, and he did not get the takedown. I don't think he got a single takedown in like 40 attempts. So everyone was sick of it. No one was punching or kicking or anything. So people were getting bored. And then, of course, the main event was DC and John Jones, which was really great. But even Renan Barão was on that card, and he was still kind of with it, at that time. So it was a cool fight. Forgot who else was on there, but it was a lot of good fights. So I can't even believe I went there. Like, I don't know how I managed to go to that one, but that was a good fight card. But as I was saying, outside they had fighter signing and stuff, and Felice Herrig was out there, so that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, did you get a picture with her?
No, I actually didn't get a signature or anything. I was just walking around waiting for my friend to show up. I wasn't gonna wait in line for that. I'm like, I'm happy I seen him in person. That's cool, but move on.
I have.
It was hot, dude.
I bet I'm outside. Yeah. But from UFC 54, I have a ton of photos from that. Sure. I met Kevin James from King of Queens. He looked super stunned. Really? I was like, hey, man, picture.
That's funny because there's a lot of celebrities at that fight card. It was pretty cool. I saw the cast of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They were there.
Nice.
Yeah, it was cool. Saw Gordon Ramsay. Chuck Liddell was coming through also. And yeah, I almost crashed into Holly Holm because she cut me off on the stairs.
I'm pretty sure that would have been one-sided, and it would have been ended up with you on the ground.
And she is I'm 5'6" and a half-ish, 5'7", whatever. To me, that's average. I guess to other people, that's a little taller. This girl towers over me. Her hair was like splashing in my beard because she was like flipping her hair, and I was right behind her. Like, she came out of nowhere. I think she had heels on too, some kind of a heel. So she was tall, and all I had was this blonde hair in my face, and I'm like, okay. And then I look, and then she kind of turned sideways. I was like, oh shit, it's Holly Holm. And I almost ran into her and spilled my beer on her because she cut me off. But still, I'm like, wow.
F you.
I was like, okay. But that's how good of seats
now, that would have been the story.
There too. I saw TJ Dillashaw. He was there in his little man suit. It's kind of cute.
Are you sure that wasn't a onesie? Because he's a baby. Come on.
Could have been. Same size.
Exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, I think The Rock was there too.
That is
it was crazy. It was the time of my life. That's for sure.
I know how that is. All right. That was the what we just were discussing was the UFC Fight Night card that's coming up tomorrow. And yeah, I mean, there's going to be good fights. Come on, it's UFC. But we're excited about the main events for the prelims and for the main card. Those are the fights that we are looking forward to the most. And of course, I mean, there wasn't fights last weekend, but there's always drama with UFC fighters. Yeah. So let's go to, which story should I go to? There's actually been quite a few non-UFC stories. But we will continue to ride the UFC train and talk about Paddy Pimlet and TJ Dillashaw arguing on Twitter. That shit has been entertaining. Because we were talking about the show that Paddy Pimlet, he's very serious about when he's hyper focused for a fight, but outside of that, nah, man,
Anything
getting
goes.
And
Yeah.
TJ Dillashaw has been talking shit about it.
But to be fair, everyone has talked shit about Paddy Pimlet. So when I saw the article, I was like, it said, "Oh, the saga continues." I'm like, I didn't even know there was a saga because
I didn't either. I just saw comment, I saw response.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, some saga. Saying Lord of the Rings. Come on.
The only saga that's going on here is TJ Dillashaw and his shit that had happened in the past.
I'm like, which one's worse? The shit that he was putting in.
I don't think TJ Dillashaw has any room to talk shit on anyone. Yeah. Yeah, he lost his credibility with me, but he could possibly win it back still, so I'm interested.
There's still time for him to do that. But just the comments, like, is this fella messing at TJ Dillashaw? Used to sell t-shirts with his fat face on it saying Fat Tyler. When he came out of camp, don't forget your own past, you sausage. Cheating little juice head. Would never have won a belt without them steroids, you effing mushroom.
That's hilarious, and maybe it's true. So.
I feel like I screwed up because I feel like I should have read that with an accent.
I know, that's okay. I could hear it.
But yeah. So
TJ Dillashaw cannot talk shit.
No, you can't. But
he lost that privilege.
I feel like it would lead up to a good fight between them.
Sure, I think
it would be on the
everyone wants to fight with Paddy because they know what kind of power he has right now. And it honestly, for TJ Dillashaw, I think that'd be a good fight. Also, but Paddy, I'm not saying he can't win. I'm saying it would be a tough fight for him, I think, at this UFC level. And being that he was been so cautious to get into the UFC, I believe he turned it down once already. They asked him to come to UFC. He turned it down to get more experience because he was that serious about it. I'm not sure he'd go for that fight. I think it'd be a money fight, but I don't know if he truly is interested in that. But also now that his name is out there, he's gonna have to take one of these fights. He's gonna have to start taking
bigger names
because then people are gonna start saying that he's running or whatever. But eventually, he will have to take one of these big fights. I think TJ would be a good one. I don't know if he'll take it or not.
I think so. But TJ is still in the mix. So I feel like if Paddy wants to really get involved, that would be a good starter.
I think he has all the opportunity in the world to do what he wants right now, but he is also very careful about it. And I think we were talking earlier that he is very serious about his downtime. Like, was watching a podcast with him on it, clips of it. I need to go back and watch the whole thing because it's interesting. But he's very, very picky about the fights he takes, when he takes them, and he was very vocal about not taking any short notice fights. He's like, why the hell would I do that? Like, he doesn't need to take a short notice fight. Like, he's all about taking care of himself, making sure he's ready and stuff. And then it's hilarious.
Not food wise. Come on now.
Right. Well, no, it's hilarious how much weight he gains in his off time, immediately after the fight,
he 2 days later. Paddy the Fatty.
Yes, Paddy the Fatty instead of Paddy the Batty.
Or how about Paddy the Fatty Batty?
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
But to see, you're right. He's very in control of everything. But in order to hit that next stage, he's already super popular. But let's move you up. You're in the UFC. You're in the big show. Let's see you move on.
But he's done so well so far that whatever he's doing is working. So
true. But if he's just going to pad his record, what's the point?
I don't think he's the type to just keep padding his record. No, I think he's very calculated.
But I think
I'm curious to see who he accepts for a fight, because a guy like that, I think you could go one or two ways when you get into the UFC. You could be one of those people that'll take any fight anytime, at any weight sometimes, and or you could be super picky, be really good at all of your fights that you do, which reminds me of a Conor McGregor type where, right out the gate, he seemed like, oh, there's something there. He's he's got something.
Got potential.
I feel like Paddy has that also, being how popular he already is and how well he's done so far. So I think he's on the path of maybe like a Conor McGregor type. I don't know how big he'll get, but I think that he is striving to be on that path rather than like Donald Cerrone. I'll fight anywhere, anytime, anybody, as many.
And yet his record has been like that.
He has a great long career, but now you can see what happens when you do take that path for too long, you know? So I love watching Paddy. He's been entertaining since his first fight in the UFC. It's been very impressive. Given both fights, I remember being super worried that he was actually knocked out, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes out and knocks these guys out. His first fight, I thought, oh my gosh, he's losing. Like, he was flying against the cage. He honestly looked half knocked out. I thought the fight was over, and it definitely was not over, because he came out with I don't know, I think it was like a hook or something. I don't remember, but he knocked the guy out with one hit after looking like he was already getting battered and stuff. So, and then did it again in the second fight. So,
it's
a fighter like that makes me nervous, but very entertaining.
It's also exciting.
It is, yeah.
But because he looks like blonde Ron Weasley, he cast a spell in the cage while he was fighting, and that's why he won. But
also, all the people that are giving him this attention, obviously they're worried about him too, you know, because they're not writing him off. They know, you know, this is someone.
This is a threat.
It is a threat, but also a chance to make some money.
Yep. Let's make those money.
I feel like everyone wants to fight him just because it's him. I feel like.
Well, he's the flavor of the week right now, and I don't mean that in a negative, because I feel like if he maintains, he'll of course still be a bigger name. But right now, because he's up and coming in that sense so fast, that I think a lot of people see him as the flavor of the week.
Flavor of the week, in his own words, he's the new cash cow. So I love someone that has that confidence, though, because you're always going to watch to see what happens, whether you love him or hate him. I don't think anybody hates him, honestly.
After that, he's down for a good meal. So
that's
the automatic homie right there.
Yeah. So I can't wait to see what happens with him.
Same. I hope they do make this fight, because there's been quite the feud going on Twitter. I won't say it's a saga. No, that's
whatever. Who isn't feuding? Whatever, man.
True. Very true. All right. Now we're going to discuss the Korean Zombie, who competed a few weeks ago and lost in his title fight. Not his title. He fought for the title. And he's not going to retire yet, because he didn't look great in that fight. But you could tell that his career is not, because he took that time away to do what he had to do, his responsibilities, that was the time where, if he was really going to be a title holder, was that time. And unfortunately, I think that time has passed. So I look at it like he'll be a gateway fighter now. But now he's taking his career. He realizes where his career is at, and he's taking it slower. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Although, you're fighting for the title. That's the hardest fight you're ever going to fight, you know?
You're right. But he did not. He just didn't look good at all.
Didn't look like he was there.
Exactly.
But also, I don't know how much of that has to do with it being Volkanovski, though, that you're facing. Come on. What do you think is going to happen, no matter who you are? At this time, Volkanovski is, one of the best. He just seems untouchable almost, he's very much on that mountain right now. So I'm totally not surprised on how that fight went, because I think that's how it would go with most of the people in the rankings fighting him. Because we used to think Max Holloway was invincible. Look what happened to him against Volkanovski. Although they were close fights, didn't get blown out of the water. But, if Max Holloway failed to beat him, twice? I think they had 2 fights. Not surprised. So we'll see what happens next for Korean Zombie. He still has a huge following. I think he has a lot of opportunity left. I don't know. I think the next couple of fights for him will be the definite answer of what's going to happen. with him and where his career is going, or if it's going to be over. I don't know. It depends how his next fight goes. So I'm interested to see what happens next, because then I can form a definite opinion. I just know he didn't look good in that fight against Volkanovski, so we'll see.
I completely agree. And we'll do one more UFC story, then we'll move on to some other now former UFC fighters and whatnot. But Dana White talking about boxing. That's always interesting to me because he is a boxing fan.
Right.
And he basically was talking about how promoting boxing is a nightmare. Boxing is a broken business that is an absolute nightmare to try and fix. And he is absolutely right.
It started off as a very corrupt business, you know. It's that kind of foundation. I don't know about if it's that bad now. I don't know. I think the business has been around for so long that I think whatever was going to happen has already happened. Because people always talk about the decline of the boxing world. I don't know. I think MMA had a lot to do with that, because people are very much interested in MMA. Although you do have diehard boxing fans, of course, and there's also boxing involved in MMA. So, it kind of evolves. That's why we got the Conor McGregor versus Mayweather. That ended up being huge. But that was thanks to MMA also. And I think for Dana White to be constantly being asked about boxing, it's got to be so irritating, because if he wanted to be in that business, I think he would have already been in that business. He's built this huge empire on MMA. Everyone wants to keep asking, like, oh, when did you...
Because he's a boxing fan.
Who isn't?
There's quite a few people that aren't.
Okay, whatever. We're not friends, but with all the crap that Dana White gets from everybody talking about boxing, when are you gonna let your fighters get out of their contracts so they can make some money? It's like, dude, it's like, why? I wouldn't even ask that question to him, because he is the president of UFC.
No point. Yeah.
MMA. That's his business. That's what he's been trying his whole life to do, and now he has it. And you really think he's just gonna switch or let half of his business go because someone wants to box when
why let some of his top fighters go compete in another sport? That's not
dumb.
Unless he gets a cut, that's not making him or the promotion money.
But it could also make the promotion a lot of money. I don't know anything about contracts or how that works. It doesn't sound like it works out very well. And I think the only one that would persuade him was Conor McGregor, although he is one of a kind. I don't know who else could do that. Everyone's tried it. He just seems more and more irritated about it. But honestly, look at where the UFC is now. People always want to change it. They always want to change it, but it's so great right now, and there are things you can change to make it better.
I know Ngannou wants to compete against Tyson Fury. That's been a big talk for a minute.
Okay, why though? It's because he wants to make money. Someone's been talking in his ear saying he can do better.
Is Conor McGregor? He was the catalyst, but he was special because Conor McGregor is Conor McGregor. That dude can do a lot of this.
Yeah,
it doesn't do a lot of that.
Yeah, but so it doesn't work with someone like Francis Ngannou, who's not a big talker per se. I just don't see anything really happening with anyone else wanting to box and having Dana White involved. As long as they
would do it after he's out of his UFC contract. That's when I see that.
Yeah, they could do whatever they want after their UFC contract. It's that they're in a contract with UFC. That's where you belong. That's where you've been fighting to be in. If you don't like it, take legal action. But you got to be prepared to never go back to MMA, because you'll never go back to UFC after you burn that bridge. There's
always bare knuckle.
It's like pick your battles, I don't blame Dana White for shutting down stuff like that. If I was the president of UFC, I would be doing the exact same thing, because you built your empire the way it is, and people are constantly going to be wanting to tear it down, because that's human nature. People always want to, when you got something good going on, like someone's always got to start some kind of crap to bring you back down. But with the whole boxing, it's like, why are these MMA fighters wanting to do boxing now? It's like, stick with your sport. Do one at a time. Whatever. Contracts are a big deal. So yeah, I don't know the legal aspects of that, but I don't know. You get a lot of people saying, "Oh, you can make way more money doing this then all of a sudden it's all about money. When before it was like, this is my love, my sport. And now it's all about money when you're on the top. So I think you have to make a choice. And if things change, but you got a contract. You could somehow get out of it, but don't expect to come back, on good graces. If you're going to constantly pick on Dana to do all these things that he doesn't want to do, it's his business. He can do whatever he wants.
That's it.
For the most part, I don't know who owns part of what, multiple owners of UFC. So we don't know.
Very true. But now we're going to move on to something else besides the UFC. A fight we had talked about quite some time ago that never happened because a fighter caught COVID and it was never rebooked. Sage Northcutt versus Shinya Aoki. We talked about it before, like we discussed before the show. This fight I want to see because I am an Aoki fan, and I think he would destroy Northcutt. That's me personally. Oh, he's on the ground. Northcutt always has a puncher's chance.
Right.
Northcutt hasn't competed since 2019, where he lost. Ooh. And so it's been a minute.
It's been a while.
Yeah. And he wants the fight rebooked. I'm surprised that ONE Championship, I should say, has not rebooked it.
Right.
Good.
Especially if they both agree.
Yeah. And they've already had agreed to the fight. It just never happened.
Reschedule it.
I would definitely like to see that bout take place, and hopefully it does.
Yeah.
Because, it's been a while for Northcutt. I'm sure he can use his scratch. And then last week we talked about generational fighters and how that's starting to become more of a thing. Well, now we have the grandson of Muhammad Ali, the GOAT, the greatest boxer of all time. I don't care what anyone says. He will always be in my top 5 boxing legends. His grandson is making a run in MMA, competing in an amateur fight. So that is very interesting to see.
That's very interesting. That's exciting. Rather than, just boxing. That's really interesting. I'm very curious about how that ends up.
I am too. I actually really look forward to hearing about how his fight goes.
Yeah.
Especially because, of what he stems from, what his lineage.
Yeah.
One of the greatest boxers of all time. So, hell yeah. You hope for the best, but you're also like...
You never know. That's so much pressure to be even closely related to someone as big as Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
And the expectations people have. You just already coming out of the womb. You didn't even, people that haven't even tried yet, they have this expectation of that's your dad, your grandpa, your family member. Oh, shoot. What are you?
You should be at this elite level already. You should have been born at this elite level.
You're supposed to just be born into it. You don't
exactly.
have to or something.
Everyone's training.
Different. Yeah. So I feel bad for those fighters. It's they don't even have a chance to get good or get experience without having that backlash of constantly having you'd seriously have to go under a different name. That's what I would do if I was in that situation. Give me another name and I'll switch it later. Let me just try this without all the pressure.
A lot of people do that, go under a different name and try to make it big.
Yeah.
That does happen in pro wrestling, where you have somebody who's I don't want to be under the shadow of my father or grandfather or what have you. I'm going to do things my own way. And so I think it's interesting that it's not just some random fighter. It's okay. Let's be honest. It's not Frank Mir.
Right.
It's Muhammad Ali, the guy,
the biggest,
the GOAT, the GOAT.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious to see what happens, especially because he's not competing in boxing, he's competing in MMA. So
that's even more interesting. Like I said, it's not boxing, it's MMA. So yeah, that's very cool. I like that. Because we were just talking about MMA fighters going to boxing. It's how about we do it the other way around?
Exactly. So that will be very interesting to hear about when that happens. And now we're going to move on to, we're going to go back to a boxing type situation, because former UFC title challenger John Dodson is now in bare knuckle fighting.
Interesting, because he's still very good at MMA.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, like, what maybe drove him. Maybe he has no other options at the time. I don't know.
Probably. I don't think he had a contract because his last fight was for XMMA on April 2nd, where he won a decision over Francisco Rivera. So, and his previous fight was against Cody Gibson. Props to Cody Gibson.
Yeah.
And he lost by decision to Gibson. So he's not doing like his last fight was a win. But I think he just wasn't signed anywhere. Here's an offer on the table. There you go.
It must be like maybe bare knuckle just has shorter contracts where you can come in for a fight or two and then go about your life.
Because we are seeing some fighters that have already transitioned out.
Yeah.
So that very well could be, but John Dodson is now with Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. The thing that gets me wondering is there another dude that's that small that's going to be?
I don't know. I was just thinking about that. I'm like, okay, so that's cool that they got him, but I don't
know if I don't think Chad Mendez can cut weight that low, but they might not fight at that weight. They could.
I don't know, and
that would be an interesting fight.
I don't know how big he can get to either, so I don't know. Unless there is the whole division they're trying to build. Maybe he's a part of building up that division there. I don't know. Maybe.
Could very well be.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, I just thought that was weird. Like, oh, he signed? I thought he was still doing MMA. Okay.
I'm like, yeah, I believe he's still in his prime for MMA. But I don't hear that much about him anymore. So
very true. And then speaking of bare knuckle, we were talking about it earlier, before the show. Beck Rollins versus I just blanked.
Oh, Britain Hart.
Thank you.
Yeah,
they're going to be fighting again. So now we're starting to see multiple fights happen, or like trilogy type fights. So I think that's very interesting. So it's not just one and dones. It's all right. We'll run this back. Let's do it.
Yeah, and I didn't watch the first one, but
it was a split decision.
Yeah, so I could see that happening again because of that. And also, I think their pool of fighters isn't that deep there. So anything that they can make interesting, they're going to do it for sure.
Also, because you don't have Paige Van Zandt there because she lost to Britain Hart.
Yeah, so, she did.
Yeah, just interesting that they're finally starting to have their new fights, but more of a trilogy style.
And Britain Hart, I feel like, has been in bare knuckle for a while now, which is interesting. Kind of the face of it for females, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know how long Beck Rawlings has been in it. The last thing I remember of Beck Rawlings was when she was in UFC and just wasn't winning anymore. I mean, Paige Van Zandt beat her. So it's kind of funny they both ended up in bare knuckle, but it definitely seems like Beck Rawlings type of promotion to be in. It's bare knuckle. So, and she's tough, so we'll see.
Very much so. And then now we're going to discuss a guy who hasn't quite competed in UFC. He's not in the UFC, but he's on his way. Bo Nickel. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's an amateur wrestler, and this dude is legit badass. And he's talking about he's a highly decorated wrestler. Let's see. I've told you before the show what his record was. It was
like
120
and 3.
He's lost only 3 times. I want to know the dudes he's lost to.
Right.
That's what I want to know now.
Yeah.
Because he's only lost 3 times. But
Yeah.
this dude is a highly decorated wrestler, and he's going to be competing in MMA. And he's actually he's training at American Top Team in Coconut Creek. So that's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
I'm ready for this dude to make his debut.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting.
I'm curious to see him because we know he's a wrestler. He has that base. In his debut, if he goes against somebody who's remotely good at striking, how his striking has come along, and how everything else is coming together for him. That's what I'm really curious to see, because we know this dude could probably wrestle blindfolded.
Yeah.
And shoot.
It's just when you spend so much time with one sport and you got to transition, it's like starting all over again, you know?
Yeah. And he did say that, I don't think I need to rush this process. I'm looking to take it one step at a time and continue to grow as a person, as a competitor, and a fighter.
Smart.
So for me, the goal remains the same. UFC champion, pound for pound, number one guy on the roster. Mm-hmm. Okay. I like that. He does have a goal of, I want to be the best in the world.
Yeah.
And with that type of talent in wrestling, that's not a big stretch. I think you can pull it off.
Sounds like it. I mean, he's got one of the best chances, so.
Let's see if it says he was a 3-time Division I champ and 3-time Big Ten Conference champ at Penn State. I don't think it says what weight he's fighting. A middleweight. There we go. He's fighting in a middleweight bout, and he will be fighting Friday. I take that as today. Yes, today, at Jorge Masvidal's Icon Fighting Championship in Richmond, Virginia. And he's taking on John Noland. John Noland is also debuting. So it's going to be interesting to see two debuters, but one has such credentials that I feel like it's just going to blow this dude out of the water.
Probably. But yeah, probably. Yeah.
The guy was like, sure, I'll fight him, and then realizes what he got into, and he was like,
oh, shit. Fighter's chance. You never know.
And then that's when you hear about him not showing up to weigh-ins.
Oh, God.
No, but a fight like this, so highly, like, with such a notable name, you got to show up for that fight. This fight has to happen.
Yeah, well.
So, we shall see. And that's really going to do it for us here at the MMA Mainstream Podcast. So, yeah, we had an interview, talked about some stuff, a lot of bare knuckle fighting going on.
Yeah.
A lot.
Oh, I do have one thing.
What do you got?
Yeah. I don't know why I just remember these things like at the very last second. But tomorrow in downtown Fresno at the Bankers Hall.
Yes.
There is Muay Thai fights, amateur Muay Thai fights. I know from my gym, from Manny Mancha's kickboxing gym, we have 2 fighters that are competing tomorrow. We have Ignacio and Brian making their debuts. So should be some really good fights. I don't know how big the card is. I think it's pretty filled. So I think they are still selling tickets online. If you
I want to see the layout. I want to see how that place looks.
I've never been there. So we'll see. Usually, I think we used to have Muay Thai fights in Doubletree Hotel back in the day. I think that place is a little expensive. So organizations.
But the rooms are vast. They're good sized rooms.
Yes. So I would imagine Bankers Hall is the same way. I've never been there, but looks like a good venue so far. So that's tomorrow. I think the fights start at 5. They open the doors at 4. I bought my tickets online, but hopefully getting credit to the fighters. You do mention their names, so if you happen to know anyone, get it online. But I hope they're selling them at the door still. I don't know, but tomorrow, yeah, doors open at 4. Fights start at 5. So that should be interesting. Looking forward to that. But that was it.
So tomorrow, if you're in downtown, if you're in Fresno, the Central Valley, and want to check out some Muay Thai, go check it out. That will definitely be interesting and awesome to see because, it's fighting.
Yeah. It's been a while since, I think it's been a year since I've been to Muay Thai fights, in Fresno anyway. They have that, and I believe there's another one coming up at the end of June or July at the Tower Theater, I believe. Mm-hmm. Although I haven't heard too much about that. I got to check back and make sure that that's still happening. But I know that that's going to happen too. That happened last year. That should be a good one also. So we'll see what happens with those. But yeah, tomorrow, if you're interested in watching some Muay Thai amateur fights down at Bankers Hall in Fresno.
All right, folks, go check it out. And that's going to do it for us here at the MMA Mainstream Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you guys next time.